Today I will be taking apart, cleaning, repairing, and putting back together a new to me Passap e6000. Now this was not stored in great condition. You can smell that there were pets near it, so it definitely needs a cleaning. And some of the pushers are really tough to move or don't move at all. So you may not need to do a full deep cleaning when you have your machine, but this one, by how it was stored, it really needs to be taken apart and examined and put back together. So I'm going to start by taking the locks off the machine. So first I'm going to unplug the front lock from the back lock, pull that out. I am going to disconnect the locks, and then I'm going to take the front lock on GX off the back and put it to the side. Oops. Then I'm going to take the connector for the cable off the back lock. So there's a little tab. I'm going to pull it down to the left, and I'm going to flip that up and off the lock. And take the back lock also on GX off the bed to the left. And set that aside. Next, I'm going to take the color changer off. There are some nuts on the back that you can unscrew by hand. So I'm going to go down here. Record this, so I'm going to unscrew these by hand. Lefty loosey. They don't have to come off all the way. You can also use a big flat head if they're really stuck. Now, as you take this off, you might have some shims underneath. Those would be some pieces of paper, most likely. If you do have them, make sure to make a note of where they are. You can use some painter's tape to keep them up there, or just set them aside and make a note of where they were for. Okay, I'm going to do that on the other side as well. And this side is actually missing one of the screws. So I just have the one on the bottom. So I'm going to have a replacement there. Okay, I'm going to set those to the side as well. Now I'm going to rack the bed properly. So you can see here that there is a mark on the back and on the front. You want those two to match up. So it's going to be about half turn to the left usually. So let's see. Racking handles up, and these match up. And so when these match up, you're going to be able to access the screws properly. So then we're just going to take the racking handle out, pop it off. There we go. And put it to the side as well. Next up, we are going to detach the machine from the stand. So I am unscrewing the clamps. Both sides. And keep those clamps safe to the side. Next, I'm going to take the machine off the stand and put it on the ground. Now, I have carpet. If you have hardwood floors, you're going to want to put something soft down underneath it. I'm eventually going to put a sheet underneath so that I'm not going to lose any screws or nuts or any pieces. They'll all stay on that sheet. And just try to use an old sheet and try to use a plain one. If it's patterned, it's okay. It might be harder to find the pieces, but you just lift up the corners of the sheet so anything on the sheet will fall towards the center, and then you'll find your pieces. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up and then move the stand out of the way and put this on the sheet. And when you pick it up, be careful not to pick it up by the plastic pieces. I was holding the metal frame underneath, front and back side, one hand on each. One hand on the front left, one hand on the back right. You can alternate. That's pretty stable that way. Okay, and now let's get rid of the stand. Okay. Now I've gathered some small glass jars for me to put loose pieces in to keep them organized. And I also have some large mason jars that I'm going to put the channels and the needles in. So first I'm going to flip the machine over, loosen the rail and take it off, slide the rail off, and take the needles out and the springs out. So when I flip this over, I'm on carpet, so I don't have to worry about the surface, but if you're on hardwood or tile, you can fold up a towel and put it underneath the machine to keep it safe. But since this is a soft carpet, it's fine for me to put it right down on it. It's not going to damage anything. Okay, and before you flip it over, you want to make sure there are no needles sticking up. So there's one sticking up here, not too high, but make sure there's none sticking up because those would hit the ground. Okay, so I'm going to start here and flip it over. So I'm going to start loosening these nuts to take the rail off. Now this is a socket wrench. I think it's a 6mm. It doesn't actually say the size on it. I'll have to figure that out for you guys later. I'm giving it each of these nuts a few turns to hopefully loosen the rail enough to slide it off. You also need to loosen a screw underneath this nut that you attach the color changer or other extension plates with. So you take this off. And then use a flathead to loosen the screw nut thingy, and then take it all the way off. And then loosen the nut like the other nuts. Now you can't take the rail completely off. What's going to happen is your needles could fall out when you try to flip this over. So I'm only going to loosen it enough so that the rail stays on, and then I'll be able to take these pieces off. Okay, and then I have two bolts here. Oh, that one came off. Okay, pieces there. Okay, I did both rails, hopefully. So let's see how it ends up. Oh, pretty dirty bed there. Okay, see this one fell. Didn't fall out. Okay. Yep, it'll budge. Yep, here we go. Now, you could just take the needle bar out and take all the needles off, but you'd have to be worried about the spring the whole time. And, you know, doing 180 and then 180 needles that way. It's much simpler to just take the rail off. Okay, and if it doesn't slide off, then you need to loosen some screws on the back again. Okay, let's see about this one. You know what? I'm going to take the needles off the back first. Okay, you can also examine the spring. I'll vacuum that out, but I'm going to wind this up. Try to put it in one of these. Didn't wind it up well enough, but it's to the side. Here's the bar. Set that to the side. Be very careful with those. And now I've got to take all these needles out. I take a few up. Oof. Take a few out like that. The ones that are by the nut, you just have to angle them a little bit more to get them out. Lift them up, angle off. Interestingly, this machine is also missing the 3 needles to the right on the back and the front. Looks like they didn't have any replacement needles and broke some. Okay. That's all those needles. Vacuum time. Okay, now we vacuumed. Sometimes these needle channels come off here, but I think these are on tight enough where they're not going to come off right now. So the next step is to loosen the bottom rail and take that off. So I'm going to flip them over again. Okay, I have some bolts, or so rather nuts and some washers that came off. So they'll just gather underneath. I have some over here. Okay, and now I am going to take the bottom rail off. I'm going to unscrew these all the way. These don't slide off. This is just, I'm going to unscrew it all the way. I just started randomly in the center, but you can start wherever. And there's going to be one, is there one under here? There's one to the side of it. You may or may not be able to access it without taking this plate off. If you need to take it off, it's just 2 Phillips screws. Pretty easy to take off. Okay, before my battery ran out, I was taking all the nuts and washers off. So continue with that. Got an extra one dropped in there by accident, so I won't be able to get the other one out. Okay, well. Here, and I am able to get it without taking plates off, but I might not be able to put it back on without taking the plate off. Okay, and I'm going to take the top row off completely now. I had just loosened it before, taking the top rows off completely. I'm trying to. I need to get a little more light down there to see. Yep. So again, I'm unscrewing these. First time around, I had just loosened them. This time I'm taking them all off completely. Now, I've been known to forget one or two. Okay, and again, I haven't bothered trying to collect all the nuts and washers just because it's hard to get them out. So now I'm going to flip it back over, put any loose pieces I have away. Okay, and flip it back over gently. Oop, I spotted one. Okay, and I'm not going to put it back down on it. I'm just going to scoop this over. Oh, all these pushers came out, and these rails. Yeah, these came out. These are actually really tough to move, so surprised these came out, but that's fine. Okay, now I'm going to pick them all up, get another container for them. Now take care of this very carefully. These can snap, and you see it's already snapped at the center. Pretty filthy. Okay, I'm going to take the back rail off. Now, the top and bottom ones are different, but it's pretty easy to tell the difference. And sometimes these end ones are different. They're longer. Okay. Let's see. What do I want to take off next? Well, we should be able to take the end plates off. This one has a spring in there still. So I'm going to take the spring out. Okay. Now this spring is different. It has this little white thing on the end. So you'll be able to tell the difference between these three. Okay. Front and back are the same. Oh, it's found pretty tough. Okay. Allen spacers. Oops. Now these still have the back bed pushers in them. Take the pusher out. This one's stuck. I think something was spilled on this in the middle, so everything in the center is really stuck, especially. Take the pusher out? I think so. Yeah. Nasty. Oh. And we have this, which is going to, usually I can wiggle it off. There we go. Careful not to break the plate. See if that's off. That's the channel for the pusher spring to go through right here. Okay, and I think I'm probably going to want to take this off and clean it. There's probably stuff underneath this. So I am going to take the pusher rail off. So I'm going to clear this area a little bit, go get some buckets for this stuff. Be right back. Okay, so I have got a cleaning tub here, the drain. I'm going to put my plastic parts in. I'm going to take this pusher rail off. And on that side, there's a spring. Okay. So I am going to release the spring here. And then there's some nuts in here, some square nuts. And most of them are loose, but there's one that is screwed in, so I'm going to unscrew it. So let's find it. Flip it up. Okay. Unscrew this. Okay, and that released it. Okay. Now let's see if that releases it. Yes. We're all good. So we have this to clean. Pretty dirty, and this frame to clean as well. Okay, be gentle with that. Just make sure not to bend these prongs here. Now under here, I have a bunch of nuts and washers. So you don't want to put this somewhere else than your workstation until you've made sure you have all the nuts and washers out of there. Here's some. So I'm going to keep this on top of my sheet still, but just to the side. These different things I'm putting in a different one. Things that aren't these nuts and washers and the bolts that go with them. Okay, it's pretty dirty on the sheet now because of all the stuff that came off, but be very careful and don't vacuum until you've gotten everything up.